The big question remains today is, will Israel invade and retake southern Lebanon as a buffer zone? Well, the fact is they have done it before. And there's enough Iranian-backed terrorists there to drive any sovereign nation to declare a buffer zone. It really makes sense. One thing you should know is that Israel has been at war with Lebanon since 1948. Lebanon was then and remains now a hostile nation to Israel's existence. Nothing's changed. Israel's northern towns have lived in constant threat from these brutes since Israel's founding. It's high time to remove the northern threats and create a permanent buffer zone held by none other than Hezbollah's most feared and hated enemy, the Israeli settlers. All right, we'll explain it more. I'm Joshua, and this is the Israel Guys. Welcome back to the Israel Guys, where we believe that in a world of anti-Israel propaganda, you should have a direct connection to the land and people of Israel. Guys, Bezalel Smotrich stated this. He says, Israel must demand Hezbollah halt its attacks and withdrawals north of the Litani River in Lebanon. Only then should evacuated residents of northern Israel return home. Now, that's spot on for what we're dealing with today. We're talking about the Litani River. What is the Litani River? It's in Lebanon, and what does that have to do with Israel? Can Israel really push back all the way to the Litani River and hold that as a buffer zone? Well, Bezalel Smotrich, probably one of the most hated ministers in the Israeli government by the enemies of Israel, which to me says something. I hope it says something to you as well. Maybe that should be one of the most favored of the pro and the supporting of Israel. Sometimes you got to look at the enemy. There's another really awesome guy named Alon Levy. He was the former Israeli government spokesman, and what he said, Hezbollah declared war on Israel on October 8th. It can end that war now by retreating beyond the Litani River. As the UN Security Council demands, we need to get our civilians safely back to their homes on the northern border, free of rocket and suicide drone attacks. Now, these two gentlemen have something in common here that maybe you have not heard about. They're mentioning, one, the Litani River as a buffer zone border. We have the Israeli northern border with Lebanon, and then we have this buffer zone that goes all the way up to the Litani River. You've probably never heard about this. This is not something that's talked about because it's talked about on a conservative right-wing leg, of which no media is talking about because, as you well know, media here in Israel and abroad is not so much in the conservative camp. So we're telling you here what's actually going on in Israel and what the likelihood of Israel actually invading and taking over this buffer zone, and then how will they hold it? How are they going to return the Israelis, the 60,000 Israelis, back to their homes? And then how is it going to be? There's a lot of details here, and I do believe, yes, they will bring their hostages home, yes, of course, and the Israelis back to their homes in the south. These are big war goals, as well as should add, it's not an official addition, but this looks like it is coming, the buffer zone retake. And I bet you didn't know they had it before. Retake the buffer zone between the northern Israeli border and the Litani River. Well, I haven't seen that as a public war goal yet, but you'll probably likely see this coming out as things progress in the north. So retaking the northern buffer zone will allow Israelis, the 60,000 Israelis that are pulled away from their homes now for almost a year, to return to their homes. It's a big, big deal. Okay, you probably didn't know this, but the IDF held that exact buffer zone for 22 years. But they gave it up 24 years ago due to UN pressure. This is international community saying, Israel, you shouldn't be holding down buffer zones around your one and only Jewish state when you have 2 billion Muslim Arabs around you and 22 Arab states around you that want to destroy you. You don't need buffer zones. Makes sense. Well, they did it, and look what they're paying for now. They gave it up 24 years ago, allowed 24 years of buildup, not only by the PLO, formerly then brought into Hezbollah, just different terror organizations taking control of the Lebanese government and territory. with the goal of annihilating and attacking Israel. So that happened. So that's a big question. Will the Israelis be able to go back on that, what they had 24 years ago? Will they be able to hold it just like they did for 22 years ago, or like they did for 22 years back 24 years ago? Now, we're going to get into some history, but here's a few questions I have. We're going to get into the history on, was Lebanon ever friendly to Israel? What's going on? We're going to look at the wars, not just one war, but continual wars that Israel's had just time and time and time again with Lebanon, more so than probably any of its neighbors. A really crazy war history with Lebanon that you definitely don't know about. We're going to talk about that. But first, here's my question. Will the IDF take this buffer zone? Will they invade? Because this is going to be a ground invasion. Will they invade? Will they take the buffer zone? And will they do more than what they did on the last invasion? Will they hold it like the holding that is here in Judea and Samaria? As you guys well know, here at the Israel Guys, we're supporters that Israel should declare sovereignty over all of Judea and Samaria, and that this is an integral part of the nation of Israel. Has that happened yet? No, it hasn't happened, and this right now is considered a territory of Israel. Well, do you guys know that up in the north, those are old tribal lands of the people of Israel? There was a settler named Joshua from like a long time ago in the Bible, and he actually set tribes all up in the exact area of Lebanon, right there, the southern Lebanon area that we're talking about. Now, so can Israel not only go in and take a buffer zone, but will they go a step farther and do as they've done here in Judea and Samaria, technically classified as a territory right now, and hold a territory as a buffer zone, and not only just hold it militarily, but put farmers in it? Now, it sounds ludicrous, sounds outrageous, and you're not going to hear this anywhere, but the reality is that actually could happen. Let's compare a few things really quickly before we get into the history. Let's compare Judea and Samaria and the terrorism that operates within Judea and Samaria. This is this area that I've been in for many, many years now. It's somewhat in check. Israelis are here. That's the answer. Not only the IDF, but the Israelis are here, they live here, and that is the check that terrorist organizations must have. It keeps them under control. It keeps them from turning this area of Judea and Samaria into a Gaza, into, let's add, a southern Lebanon, as we're finding out now. This is a big difference. Terrorism that's left unchecked, like in Gaza and in southern Lebanon, creates an out-of-control situation that then calls for war. That's what's going on right now. It's terrorism that's left out of check for 20 years. And then look what blows up. Will Israel take the steps it needs to not only create buffer zones on its borders, but literally hold it permanently, put farmers on it, just like what's done here in Judea and Samaria, to emphasize that point. We'll talk about it more later on the show. But did you know that just 65 farmers here in the land of Judea and Samaria hold the majority of the land mass, the Jewish-held land mass on Israeli state lands? They hold 130,000 acres of land. Now, the 500,000 Jewish pioneers, some people call them settlers, that live here are only holding down 60,000 acres. So the 500,000 compared to the 65 farmers, the 65 farmers are the ones that their backs are holding this land. So, is it unlikely that Israel will not only invade, but also hold it with Israeli farmers? It's a big question, and we'll get to that. I did speak to a farmer just this week about this very thing. Before we get there, we're going to jump to an ad and come right back with the history of what's going on since 1948. Hey guys, our friends over at Israel 365 have just created a brand new calendar, thoughtfully designed for those yearning to strengthen their Hebrew and biblical heritage. Each month showcases breathtaking scenes from the Holy Land, accompanied by a meaningful Hebrew word to deepen your connection to the scripture. Blending Gregorian, and Hebrew dates, this calendar seamlessly guides you through the year, highlighting Jewish holidays and festivals with the rich cultural and spiritual insights. Hang it proudly, and every day be reminded of the ancient traditions and the timeless beauty that shapes the biblical world. Perfect for your home or as a meaningful gift. Don't miss out. Order your copy of the Israel 365 calendar today at the link below and bring the Holy Land into your home all year long. Okay, so most of you don't realize, but Lebanon and Israel, they've been at war with each other literally since 1948. We're going to run through this very quickly. Not a lot of details, but just 1948, Lebanon attacked Israel. And what you're going to find through this little historic run through is that Israel is continually retaliating against aggression from Lebanon, not the other way around. The world would want you to believe the other way around, but that's just not the case. Just like in 1948, when Lebanon, along with Egypt and Iraq and Jordan and Syria, you know the story, that's a really famous war, all attacked Israel, and Israel retaliated and won. Bring it up to 1968. Israel conducted counter-terror operations in Lebanon against the PLO, terrorist organization at the time. They retaliated against the PLO terrorists for their attacks against Israel. It was retaliation. Again, 1973, there was undercover elite operations, Israeli operations that took out terrorist leaders all the way in Beirut. Yep. Again, a retaliation attack by Israel for the 1972 Munich massacre. All right. And the continued sporadic cross-border attacks by the PLO against Israel. Again, there's these constant fighting with Lebanon going on. All the way to 1978, the first official Israeli invasion into Lebanon occurs. They called it the Operation Litani. Remember the river is called Litani. They came up that river. This river has played a significant role in these wars already, and all the way back into 1978. This was a retaliation attack by Israel from the cross-border raids that kept happening from PLO terrorists that were attacking Israel. All right? Moving all the way now. 1982. This was the big Lebanon war that most of you have heard about before. This is actually the second invasion into Lebanon by Israel. Again, a retaliation from Israeli retaliation because of attacks now from the PLO against Israel. They're just retaliating against these onslaught of attacks that's come in. Now, this was the amazing thing of the 1982. They pretty well successfully finished off what was known as the Palestinian Liberation Organization operating in Lebanon. They finished them. You don't hear much about them afterwards. But what happened is a new group was created, a new Iranian-backed terror group that now was called God's Party, right? Hezbollah. This is the new formed Lebanese terror group that you hear about all the way till today. Now that they've rebranded, they've pulled together a new terror function against Israel. 1985, they again attack. Israel responds. They push, the buffer zone is created here. 1985, they push back right into and create this buffer all the way to the Litani River. Now, at this time, Hezbollah continues to attack Israeli troops in Lebanon for years and years, all the way up to 1996. 1996 is another, guys, is this not insane? Another Lebanese attack. Israel invades Lebanon under the operation called Operation Grapes of Wrath. It's just a 17-day operation. They go in, they really, really seriously nail Hezbollah, and because Hezbollah was now they got more sophisticated. They were sending rockets. Terror attacks were happening on the towns of the north. A strong Israeli invasion happens, and then we get to 2000, where a hard thing happens. In 2000, Israel withdraws. They had been there for 22 years. Israel withdraws from southern Lebanon. They had been there since 1978, and now they withdraw. in compliance with the UN Security Council Resolution 425. Now, then, does that help anything? No. Hezbollah continues firing rockets and continues committing terror attacks against Israel. Guys, this is an insane amount of history of attacks from Lebanon. 2006, again, Israel has Lebanon attacks. Israel invades Lebanon again. Retaliation for more terror attacks from Hezbollah. The 2006 attacks were seen as very unsuccessful on the Israeli part. Israel was at a really tough time in history at that point, and their international setting was very tense. The internal setting was very tense, which made for a really hard war, and they did not reach their goals. So since 2006, we've seen somewhat of a quiet, big time, not the major attacks, but all came loose, as you well know, on 2023 October, when Hamas attacks October 7th. Who attacks on October 8th? None other than Hezbollah. Hezbollah joins the war. They see an opening and they punch it. They try to get the same kind of atrocious attack on Israel as what was seen in the south with Hamas. They were unsuccessful. Israel pushes them back, and they continue to shoot rocket after rocket after rocket all the way until today, when literally we've seen unbelievable rocket barrages. Even right now, I'm seeing videos of unreal attacks coming from Hezbollah. Now, here's the big question that remains. Will Israel continue to just strike, or will they have a ground invasion? And that's the big question that remains right now. Will they hold? Will they push forward? Will they take this buffer all the way to the Litani River? And if so, how will they hold it? And that is where the big question remains. And this is where I spoke with a farmer here just recently. The farmer says Israel must do it. They must go in. This is a local farmer. He says they must not hold back. They have to go. This is the only way forward. It's the only way for 60,000 Israelis to go back to their homes, is to create a buffer between these just absolute terror brutes, these people who are so backwards. There has to be a buffer between them and these 60,000 Israelis that have to be returned to their homes right away. The military goes in, pushes back Hezbollah, dismantles it, and creates the buffer zone. Then the Israeli farmer comes in and establishes a Jewish presence. That's what the world is going to absolutely hate. And this is my lines. I say, yeah, Hezbollah doesn't like the Israeli government. They don't like the Israelis, but they have one that they hate more than both of those. They hate what's been branded as the Israeli settlers. And I would also say they not only hate them, they fear them. Look at who the government, the Hezbollah government and their ruling parties, who they talk about, how they talk about them. They most fear and most hate the Israeli settlers because of the power they hold and the truth that they hold. Now, will this happen? I don't know. It's a great question. But as a supporter of Israel and one from the nations that loves the state of Israel, wants to see the Jewish people protected, I sure hope so. I sure hope that Israel invades, clears a buffer, and that there will be no more Jewish lives threatened by rocket, by drones, by terrorist attacks. This has to be finished once and for all. And if Israel successfully wins this war, there should be a large buffer all the way around Israel, protecting the citizens of Israel. Like the Israeli farmer that I spoke with, I hope this comes true very, very soon. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, tune out that fake news and propaganda and connect with what the truth that's actually happening here in the heartland of Israel. And don't forget that Israel 365 calendar, the Jewish New Year, is coming up. Be sure and jump over there and grab that now. Till next time.